Helping underwrite this event, Monocle's Pizza, located on North 5th Avenue in Canton. In Canton, we deliver. Quality Roll-Off, Quality Disposal, located near Farmington. By WCDD, CD Country 107.9, your home in the country. By the Bank of Farmington, located in Canton and also in Farmington. And by AC Wood Creations, located in Canton. Helping sponsor this event, Spoon River Animal Clinic, located on North Main Street in Canton. By Remax Traders Unlimited, your agent, Susie McMillan. WBYS AM 1560 and 93.7 FM, the voice of Fulton County. By Fulton County Housing Authority, Maple Manor and Longview High Rises in Canton. And by M. Bixler Video Productions. Interested in underwriting and sponsoring an event? Call us. Helping bring you this event, Sedgwick Funeral Homes, with locations in Farmington, Canton, and in Bartonville. Sustainable Building Solutions, LLC of Farmington, Chad Johnson, your owner-operator. WCDD, CD Country 107.9, your home in the country. Wesley United Methodist Church, located along Avenue A in Canton. And AC Wood Creations, located in Canton. Helping bring you this event, Spoon River Home Healthcare, bridging the gap in healthcare. Lambs of God Daycare, located on North Avenue A in Canton. By WBYS AM 1560 and 93.7 FM, the voice of Fulton County. Stereo Village, located on South Avenue A in Canton. And by M. Bixler Video Productions. Interested in a DVD of an event? Call us.
Here.
Alderwoman Hale.
Here.
Alderman Boudrich.
Here.
Alderwoman Lincolnfelter.
Here.
Alderman Nelson.
Here. Public Safety and Traffic, Alderwoman Angela Hale. Do you have anything for tonight? Thank you. Streets and Garbage, Alderman Justin Nelson. Okay. Lakes Building and Ground, Alderman Putrich.
Yep, I got all kinds of items there.
Okay. I'm going to get started real quick. Just a couple words. I know that we have opposing opinions. Some of us in there, some of us don't have an opinion at all yet. I would really appreciate if everybody can keep a civil attitude and allow people to speak regardless of their opinion. I think it'll go a lot smoother, and I think it'll show that we are intently thinking about this issue, and it is important to all of us, or you wouldn't be here. On the agenda, as you'll see at the bottom, there's some public comments. And that was put there for a reason. I know some of you signed up to speak. I'm not going to stop anybody from speaking. So I would like to keep it to 3 or 5 minutes. I don't think we're really, wanting a filibuster in here tonight. But I'd appreciate if you want to speak, come up here to the podium, and you can speak your mind. Like I said, you have 3 to 5 minutes is fine. But everybody's going to be allowed to speak. I'm not going to, I don't want anybody to go away from here thinking that, they didn't have that same opportunity. So thank you. With that being said, I yield the floor to Alderman Putrich.
Thank you, Art. I'm going to strike the purchase agreement terms and conditions. So we're still talking about it.
That's fine.
One correction, I'm going to strike on number 5, the purchase agreement terms and conditions, because we haven't went through it. We will still discuss and consider the real estate development, but we're not ready to even begin to look at the purchase agreement. The update's still the same as last time. Nothing's been voted on. We're still in the discussion mode and proposals. So that'll get number 1 done. Number 2 is the Lake Development Fund and lake-related finances. And I'm going to turn that over to our comptroller, Lou Ann.
Thank you. I did prepare some slides, but we don't have a slide projector, so I may...
Closer to the mic.
Closer, you can't hear me? Okay. So I may somewhat ad-lib some of what I would have said if the projector was available. So what we're going to do, we'll talk a little bit about the lake finances, and then we're going to talk about the city finances in general. As far as the lake fund, the lake is a separate fund from the city's general fund. It does have its own bank account. It's individual in our accounting software. It prepares its own budget. So the lake fund has its own accounts. The financial activity that I'm showing on my graph, which you don't see, we showed some expenses and revenues going back to 2014. And we came out with an average. Now, as far as the revenue and the expenses go, we did determine that of the lake fund, and the lake fund is lot leases, campground fees, and boat permits. Of those three items, on the average, it generates $18,000 over expenses for the last 5 years. But what complicates the matter a little bit is that the lake fund operates more like a business, in that it does purchase capital assets and then you can depreciate them. So there's been a lot of confusion about depreciation. Depreciation is not money in the bank. That's an expense. Okay, as far as the revenue goes, we have boat revenues, we have camping revenues, lot revenues, and other revenues. The types of expenses that get taken out of there are labor, equipment, utilities, supplies, and services. The labor that's in there is for our campground hostess, and back in 2014, we had a couple of improvements. There was a playground put in and a pavilion put in. There is extra labor in 2014, and that would be because of some extra work that was done in preparation for those facilities. Now, there's also expenses that are performed at the lake that we don't charge to this lake fund. There's no charge for sewer pickup, there's no charge for garbage pickup, and there's no administration fees. For example, anybody who performs a service at the lake that's a city employee, that's not really charged for. Okay, as far as our cash that has gotten spent during the year, in 2014 we did have the project where we did the playground and the pavilion. In 2016 there was a dam project. For the most part, that was covered under a grant that was received by FEMA, but there was some paid out on behalf from the city or from the campground fund. And then in 2017, we did a road repair. Okay, now as far as looking at the city as a whole, the city receives its funds from two primary sources: user fees and taxes. In the water department operates almost solely off of the user fees. So does the lake development and the cemetery, and garbage is also user fees. But when you look at taxes, we receive three primary sources of taxes: property taxes, income taxes, and sales tax. Those are our primary taxes. Property taxes are based upon the number of residents, property tax. For property taxes, we set a tax levy. And then once we determine that tax levy, that's spread out over all the residences in the community. So that if there are fewer residents in the community, your individual property tax will be higher because we fix a rate, we fix a tax levy, and then that is spread out. So on my handout, we took a look and we looked back for census information, and we went back to 1970. And in 1970, Canton had a population, and I've got these numbers in my notes, so let me read them to you. In 1970, the population was 14,217. In 1980, it was 14,626. It was on an increasing trend. In 1990, it dropped down, 13,922. And then in 2000, it went up. It went up to 15,288. My understanding is that the prison opened in 1989, and the city does get credit for the residents at the prison. So our population went up. Then in 2010, with that census, it went back down again to 14,704. And then the estimate for 2016 is 14,397. The next census will be in 2020. Now, the reason that the census is important is because we receive sales tax based upon that number of residents. So as the residents drop, the number of sales tax, the dollar worth of sales tax that we receive is less. So it's important to the city and it's important to all the residents that we try and maintain a population level that's not decreasing. Now, as the taxes that we receive that are based upon population would be our sales tax, our motor fuel tax, and something called replacement tax. And these are primary revenue sources for the city. Okay, when you look at our property tax, which is another primary source of revenue, that's based upon houses in the city or occupied houses. So if you look at the Census Bureau again, in 1970, there were 5,381. In 1980, it increased to 6,109. And then starting in 1990, that's begun to go down. So in 1990, there were 5,907 houses. In 2000, there were 5,677. In 2010, there were 5,406. So the number of houses in Canton City proper continues to go down. Now, what is important to that and to this project is when you're looking at spreading your tax dollars, if the city had a tax levy that was $2 million and every year your number of residents would go down, even though our costs didn't go up, you're going to continue to pay more just because of the way that that spread. So I believe that the mayor ran on a platform to not raise taxes, and some of these things, property taxes. And so this is somewhat beyond his control if you have residents moving out of town, and this is just one way that he's looked at to try and increase that tax base. I think that's all that I had. Does anybody have any questions?
How much of the dam money was grant and then how much was the project itself? That came out of the lake fund?
We might have split years in what we're doing, and we can double check these numbers, but the numbers that I have in front of me are, well, that doesn't show how much came out. Okay. I have a total for the dam project of $221,000 and $168,000 received by a grant, a federal grant. But we did receive that grant in 2 different installments, and I need to go back and look, and we'll have Keith help on that.
I think the split was around 80-20.
Anything else?
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll open that up to any council, mayor input, any questions for the council on the comptroller's report?
I mean, I don't think, and that's like, I guess, what we were looking at through some of our discussions on the lake fund was what would potentially be the net benefit to the city if some type of proposal went through. We just wanted that from a comparison on what the revenue would be generated. Looking at the financials as we have them, it's kind of difficult to see because we have our audited statements, which, as the comptroller mentioned, shows depreciation. Just for clarification on that, because this has been a question posed to me by several citizens, is are we taking the depreciation expense and putting it into a depreciation fund, which is often thrown around when we start talking about the budget? And the answer to that is no. There is not a depreciation fund within the Lake Development Fund, and that's important because some people think, well, you're just depreciating the $15,000, then it must be put into an account. And I think it needs clarified that that's just an accounting function. That $15,000 is still there, and it's still going into the Lake Fund, which it is kind of hard to follow the numbers, but I think some just wanted clarification on, are we taking that money and is that going into a separate depreciation fund? As you will see, and I guess, I think the trash or fire would show a depreciation fund when money is going into it, where we just simply don't have that fund here. So that's something I wanted to point out. So that is actually cash that is going back into the Lake Development Fund, which we would grow our balance. But looking at the balance for the year, and this isn't up to date, I think we're in the ballpark of 70 to 80,000 balance in the fund. So potentially a projection of about $80,000 by year end. Something that I would like to see, since we're discussing this, and I think it's important, dam projects, I'll defer to Keith a little bit here, I do believe typically come out of the Lake Fund. One thing I think that we need to be doing is separating a line item on the financials for the dam so that it's very clear that those monies are there, and if they're going towards the dam for dam improvements, then we want to see deductions out of that account. And I think that there's actually state law that we have to maintain a minimum in that account. Is that correct, Keith? I think based on our prior...
Look, the way it's in an ordinance, I think stated, was it 25,000? Was the number 25,000?
So I would like to see, I think, moving forward, out of that balance, 25,000 moved into a dam repair account so that we're complying with the statute. And then it would also be very clear to everybody that if we do make any dam repairs in the future, it's very clear where they're coming from, not just out of the general lake fund. Where sometimes, as we're having this discussion, hey, how much of the money came from grant, how much of it came from the lake fund, it'd be very clear that it came from the dam repair fund that's located within the lake. So just a suggestion moving forward.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to number 3, where we discuss and consider the lease terms and conditions for the campground, the main boat ramp, and the beach. I sat down with Curtis and Chris and threw out some of my ideas to kind of protect the city more, give us some outs, as well as give Herman Brothers an out if things don't work out what they're wanting it to do. And so I'll turn that over to our city attorney, Mr. Lane.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Curtis Lane. I'm the city attorney. Thank you for everybody coming out. I want to say that I've heard a lot of various opinions here, and I respected them all, but I think I want to clarify some misinformation more than anything. First and foremost, the municipal codes allows us to negotiate terms of leases, whether they be short-term leases, long-term leases, etc. I've worked with Alderman Putrich and frankly other aldermen relative to revisions, as he kind of explained that, you know, if this doesn't work out in a lease sense, would we be able to cure that in so many words? And it's still under basically development. A few things that I want to clarify, though, are things that are simply false and cannot be undertaken. I've heard for a call for a referendum, which I appreciate that, but it's not allowable under this circumstance. Further, even if it was, the individuals who have a primary residence out the lake, you cannot vote. You are not in the city limits. We cannot simply throw something on a ballot and allow people to vote that don't qualify under the law. Secondly, the information being thrown out that in any capacity, the rules, ordinances, rates, control of the either of the docks or ramps, I apologize, it's 100% our proposal is that the city controls it. So that discussion is not correct information, has never been correct information, and has not been proposed. The bottom line here is this is a work in progress. I have no idea if the council will pass it or not approve it. But there are simply falsities out in the public, which doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the people that are pro or against this. We're going to continue to work to try to get something that benefits everyone, the citizens of not only the city, but also those that live on the lake. I'll be honest with you. I've looked at properties on the lake. I want to purchase properties out there on the lake, regardless of whether this goes through or not. So that's right now we are still through the lease terms and conditions. We are still negotiating. We have sent these various revisions, which we actually incorporated a majority, I think, of what Mr. Putrich requested. And we have sent that to the Herman Brothers attorneys. We do not have any type of response at this juncture. So really, the bottom line here is that this is still a work in progress. Want to kind of touch on the boat ramps a little bit more. There was discussion, I think, of a closure of one of the ramps as well. That's not part of the proposal at all. We would still retain control, keep that open as well. There are current discussions relative to making it ADA compliance, et cetera. So with that, really, that's all I wanted to address with the community. Anybody have any questions relative to that? Yes, sir.
Question on conflict of interest.
Yes, sir.
You said that you didn't feel that there was any conflict of interest on the board.
That's correct.
How do you arrive at that?
Because a conflict of interest has to arise out of some type of financial benefit. Something that is, for example, if one of the older men or women owned a part of the lake, which the city owns, and we're never going to get rid of the lake, if they would get some type of financial kickback pursuant to the deal that would occur. If they were part of the Herman Brother Properties LLC, none of the things that were presented at the prior even remotely touched that.
You have two councilmen that work for the Graham Hospital, and you had a speech from the president and CEO from the hospital.
Right.
You don't think he has any leverage over those conflicts?
Again, my understanding of a conflict in this context is if somehow the CEO or Graham Hospital would get some type of financial benefit. The proposal is not to pay Graham Hospital anything for this lease. Graham Hospital isn't contributing anything to what the I guess, purchase price would be. No, I don't believe that's a conflict at all.
I'll pursue it further. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. If the Herman Brothers aren't going to control the ramps, why are they paying a lease?
Well, it's my understanding that the initial discussions were they did want to have control, but it was related to the stickers, basically. There were discussions relative to them selling the stickers on site and basically utilizing those funds to get, in my understanding, and I kind of in a roundabout way, to go back to the lake fund. So that's my understanding. But like I said, the municipal code, allows for us to negotiate the terms and conditions. Because it was their proposal, that doesn't mean we agreed with it. So through council discussion, you have to understand, I do what the council tells me, basically. That was not agreed upon. So in my understanding, that the stickers may still be an issue of how exactly they're sold if this happens. But again, my understanding is ramp control, that's out of the question of this juncture.
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the ordinance for the lake under 811-3, paragraph B, that reads, the Committee on Lake Buildings and Grounds shall have jurisdiction of all recreational and development activities on the Lake Canton and the land owned by the city surrounding said lake. Said committee shall have the right to make reasonable rules and regulations regarding such activities, shall have the same effect as ordinance duly enacted by the city council. So it's my understanding there's 4 members on the lake committee, is that correct?
I don't know that for sure, sir. I know that Mr. Putrich heads that. I apologize, I don't know who's on it.
Council members that were set to vote on this, can you show me where the amendment to the ordinance is that gives the right to the city council to vote on this?
Sir,
over the lake committee?
to answer your question, this meeting right now is the mechanical committee, which comprises the Lake Buildings and Grounds Committee. So this proposal that we're talking about in this meeting is where that would come from. To move on to full council after that.
But
One second, he's still
we're
talking.
set to vote on this before. That's why I'm real concerned here. I'm like,
Well, sir, you have to understand that not only probably yourself, but other citizens have requested additional information.
totally.
So that's why we are doing this. So I think that the community, including yourself, would prefer that we have these types of meetings so you can ask the question, so.
Negative. I don't want a definitive answer as to why there's not amendment to ordinances for the lake.
Right, no, it would go to, yeah. So maybe to clarify, the reading of the ordinance is the committee would make a recommendation to the council overall. I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question that way, but maybe that's how it was conveyed. The committee can make a recommendation, but the council ultimately votes whether they believe that the recommendation's appropriate or not. Yep, sir, go ahead.
If this is an ADA question, can you make the speaker louder so people here with hearing can hear?
I apologize.
If not, it's not a legal meeting, is it?
This actually says the volume is on high. So I'm sorry.
Turn it on.
It is on. Yeah, sorry.
Are
So,
the microphones on?
You know, it's just
It would be nice to hear what's going on.
right, I don't really want to mess with these, so.
compliant.
Well, the ADA compliance sort of pertains to, the ramp, so if you want to go off on a tangent, that's fine, but it's not related, so.
On the side of the microphone there isn't on and off.
You can't hear.
Yes, it is on, so. Okay, anything else? Anything else other than complaints about the volume? And again, that's the problem that we're having here. We go off on tangents that's not really related to the main issue. So if we can maybe address issues that are on the main matter, that would be very beneficial and helpful. Thank you very much.
Jack, if you have a problem hearing, come over here and sit with me.
I'm afraid of you.
I took a bath yesterday. Seriously, you can move up here. They say they're having problems with it. This is the best we can do.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well not let it
Like I said, it's only how to do it. Controlling the whole situation.
Check the side of the mic.
There is nothing.
The side of the main mic.
It's on. It's on. There is no switch here. It's got a switch.
On the first one, I'm saying. Those aren't part of the sound system.
Oh, they're not?
Okay. I believe I've seen the Herman brothers are here. Would you guys like to address these as we go through them, or do you want to wait till the end? I'll leave that up to you.
We can wait till the end.
Okay. All righty. Any other aldermen have any questions on so far?
Go ahead.
I just got a question. There's been, I think, some concerned people thinking that any forward movement of this would be in a way a privatization of the lake. I just want people to know that's simply not true, that we're not looking to privatize the lake in any way. So just wanted to, I know there was a letter put in the Daily Ledger the other day, and that was one of the statements that was made, that we were wanting to privatize the lake, and I don't think anybody up here wants to privatize the lake in any way.
But John, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But this development, won't it shut part of the lake off that you can go around right now during the daytime? Will it be gated?
Are you talking about the road? I mean, that was something I think that was initially
Annex in, excuse me, the entire lake, then you'll have a vote. But as of right now, I'm your connection for you to express your opinions to. You can't vote, but you can tell me how you feel. And that's what I'm elected as an alderman of Ward 2, is to also represent you guys concerning the lake. And that's why I'm taking all the comments in. If you've read anything on anywhere I've had anything published, it's not just city residents that are all for this. There's a ton of lake, but there's also a ton in the city. There's a lot of people that, you know, you say that you don't have a voice, but a lot of people in my ward use the lake. They don't have a lease out there. They don't camp out there. But I'm representing them too, the same way I do everybody in the city. So you have an influence, but you do not have a vote, unless we expand the city limits. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Well, you guys, we do have a vote. Because we've got an awful lot of friends in the city of Canton. And they can be voted against you.
Correct.
Or any alderman in here.
Correct.
Okay?
Yep. But all I was making point of is you can influence your friend to vote and say if...
We got a lot of friends.
Correct. But you don't have the vote, you have an influence. And that's what I'm saying about the people that are out the lake. They have the influence to me as well. So.
I was on the fire department for 27 years, and I can run a lot of votes in this.
And I appreciate that. Yes, Marcia.
I couldn't hear what the alderman over there was saying.
We're going to bring them up here the next
I
time.
would like to know what part of the west side of the lake is going to be public, besides the boat ramp.
I can answer that since I'm up here. What they propose to buy, I'm sure you've seen the chart, everything from the campground to the boat dock would be private once they sell it. And then from the boat dock to the west, according to the drawing, if you look, that last house when you enter the lake, the brick one that used to be the walk-ins home, it's going to end somewhere back right in there. So you're going to lose the entire west side and the north side to the public.
So what does that leave for the public?
You will have from the campground to the east to the dam. So
So there's no walkable space there where people can go there with their little kids and have a picnic?
well, you can walk the roads in that, but the picnic would be on that little area of strip of ground along the lake on the very south side from the dam to where what's proposed is even before you make that last curve to the campground. Yeah. Well, I understand, but that's why we're here. That's what some aldermen are fighting for, and others are fighting for the real estate tax money. This isn't going to be an easy decision on anybody up here that has to vote, because no matter which way you vote, there's going to be a group of people over here that disagree with you. If you vote the other way, according to this crowd, there's going to be bigger ones over here that don't agree with you. So, I mean, it's...
Make it a vote for the whole city as well as the Canton, the lake people.
That's not required. That's why I am your contact.
Exactly.
I'd have to...
What do we got to do to make the ordinance change?
We're having a referendum right now.
Okay, so guys,
Hang on now.
what you need to do is if you don't like that, and I'll try to speak up as loudly as I can, you cannot simply throw things on a ballot to vote. You can't do it. It's not legal. It wouldn't be valid even if we did it. It would have no precedence. It would have no value. Nothing would come of it. So I believe what he was trying to say is it's truly not legal. You can't do it. So I apologize. I know that disappoints everyone. This is the gentleman you need to speak to if you reside out at the lake and you don't have a home in the city to vote. It's that straightforward. Yes, sir.
Is it possible to put it on the ballot? Is
No.
there a way to do it?
No, there is not.
You can't petition to put it on the ballot?
No, there's not. You can't just throw whatever you want on the ballot.
No, but if you got a petition, you can vote.
Ma'am, it's not possible, so. You can't just throw whatever you'd like with petitions on the ballot. So.
How do ordinances
Okay.
affect the first place?
Again, I have nothing further to add on it. It's that straightforward. So.
Ted, if I could speak, I want to.
Alderman Johnson.
Okay, we're all asking the same questions on this ballot issue. I think it's a state law, but I'm going to let Alderman jump.
I'm not going to speak to the ballot thing. I just thought.
May I ask a question? I've been holding my hand up for 5 minutes.
You can speak, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is, at the last meeting we had up at the depot, the mayor said he was going to leave the road open so people can drive around it possibly, because he liked it and everybody else liked it. Now I just way I understood you, from the campground back, you're not going to be able to travel that road.
No. I said you're not going to be able to picnic on the grounds. The road part is still being,
Okay, you didn't say that a minute ago.
well, that's what, we was talking, where would any remaining public access to fish, off the shore, picnic, that's the way I was answering the question.
Okay, we're 10 feet from the lake, little boundary 10 feet off the water, you gonna be able to walk that?
No.
The city's gonna leave
Only
that?
if they allow you to, whoever buys that lot. They have the perpetual use of that 10-foot, even though they're leasing it from the
They
city.
don't stop you riding on the road then?
No, they will not. That's public road.
Is that the way it's gonna be left, or is that what you're saying?
That's the way it has to be left.
Guys, what I thought I might do, this subject, which we have on our agendas for discuss the lease terms and conditions for the campground, main boat ramp, and beach. Okay, can you hear me back there? Can everybody in the back wave at me? Can you hear me? Yes? Thank you. What I want to touch on, and hopefully to keep this moving forward, the purpose of tonight, guys, is we want to hear your concerns so then we can provide a counter proposal. If they don't like our counter proposal, then perhaps this doesn't go anywhere. But this is why we want to hear this. We know what's in their proposal, but going forward, I want to share with you some of our ideas so far based on what we've heard from constituents on what we might be counter proposing. None of this is official. We still have to take this to the council floor to vote on it. But I think it's important that you guys know that we're hearing you, we're listening to you, and I think some of what I'm going to go through right here might address some of your concerns. That doesn't mean that the Herman brothers will necessarily agree with them. We'll determine that later, but at this point, this is what we would like to counter-propose. So I wanted to share some of those with you so that we can kind of stay structured with the agenda going forward. One of the items that we've talked about is the term of the lease. Some people have been very concerned with the 25-year duration. We agree. We've heard you. I agree that that is a very long time to tie the city into a lease. The problem that we face with that is that they're proposing to put a significant investment into the campground. So how do we find that fair balancing point to where you guys could potentially put in an investment, but yet we can protect the city from not being bound for too long of a period of time? So one of the options that we have considered is potentially having renewal terms. So in that type of situation, for example, the lease might be for 5 years, and if they are meeting city satisfaction after 5 years and they are putting in the investments like they promised that they would make, then we might extend it for another 5 years. But again, that's just one idea that we've tried to address with the 25-year term. Accounting. One thing that I would require and that we've discussed is I would like to see an accounting done at a minimum on a monthly basis showing all revenues from boat stickers, from camping fees, from beach fees, everything, as well as the corresponding expenses associated with the leased properties, meaning the main boat ramp, the beach, and the campground. I would want to see those regularly, and where are those monies being spent? Are they being spent back on the campground as they've promised, they've said they would do? If they're not, then they would be in default of any type of lease. That's something we want to do to try to protect. Again, it's just an idea. Some of the other ideas that we've considered, again, going back to the rules, regulations, ordinances, one thing that we want to be sure of is that the city maintains control over those. So a counter proposal from the city would likely state that those items must be controlled by the city and subject to council approval at all times. That means that they do not get to unilaterally set the fees, they don't get to unilaterally increase them, they don't get to unilaterally make any changes without the city's approval. So I know a lot of people have been really concerned, well, we saw their proposal and they said that they were going to set fees at X and Y. Guys, those are their proposals. Again, our idea here is that the city keeps control of those items because that's very important. I wouldn't want to turn that over, and it's very important to us that we keep this affordable to everybody. One thing that I would like to see is that if we have a family that's either elderly or impoverished, that we provide them a means to get access to those amenities if they can't do it. So I think those are things that we can build in there to try to protect it. Again, these are ideas that would be subject to being them having to approve as well. One of the items that we also talked about that we've put in a potential lease is for their capital improvements. They've stated that they would like to make $250,000 of capital improvements in the campground and beach. What I would like to see is how are you going to spend that $250,000? Are you going to spend it on electrical supplies at the campsites? Are you going to remodel the bathrooms at the beach, which, as if anybody's been out there recently, are in terrible condition? Are they going to renovate the concession stand and make that usable again? Those are things that we would like to see. Those projects done by certain dates. If they fail to do those projects by those dates, then again, they would be in default of the lease. And some of these items have kind of previously been discussed with them, some of them haven't. Again, these are just ideas that we've had, concerns that we've heard. Local contractors. I would like this to be required that they use any local contractors for any improvements to the campground, beach, boat ramp. And why do we do that? That helps create jobs, guys. That makes sure that the money is coming back here. Will they agree to that? I don't know, but that's something that I would like to see proposed. Now, for example, I know we talked about the public access to the beachfront. This, I don't want to get too far off topic, but while I'm up here, one of the items that I've discussed with a few of the other aldermen is what if we, in their plat, had public access areas down that side of the road? So meaning if somebody wanted to bring their family down and fish off the current west bank, could the city take the purchase proceeds and build a dock or area off to the side and have public access in between some of their residences? And this is common in other subdivisions on lakes where they would have the public access in certain areas. So the idea there is that we still have free public access for fishing along that shore, but still also allowing them to develop residences on it. Again, I don't know if they would agree to that, but that's an idea that we've had. So I just wanted to go through some of the things that we've talked on just the lease. I don't want to get into all the other stuff, but just the lease, just so that we're staying on track. My point is, guys, we want to hear your ideas. We understand what's in the proposal. We've all read it thoroughly. But the main thing is that you guys tell us so that we can counter-propose it. That's what we're really here for, is how can the city come up with a counter-proposal that protects everybody's interests. And after we're all said and done, if we don't think we can do it, then maybe this isn't something that's going to continue. But if we think we can get a counter-proposal that protects the city's interests, protects the lake, keeps it safe, it's environmentally friendly, then perhaps we can keep these discussions at least going. So that's what we want to do. We want to have a civil conversation about it. But if anybody has any suggestions, any further on the lease, please let us know. I'll let Alderman Putrich take back over. I just wanted to share with you some of the ideas that we've had on just the lease part. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And I'll just give you a little visual here. Basically, everything in black here is their proposal. Everything you see in that orange color is modifications we've made to it. Now, I can go through page by page. Every page looks about like that, like some of the statutory language that you got to have no matter what. So and I still have notes even after the meeting with our city attorney and Alderman Jump that's written off to the side of after I talked to them, things they didn't get typed in that I would want in there. So your voices are being heard. I'm hearing them loud and clear. Yes, you have a question?
Who owns Canton Lake?
The city of Canton.
I am a resident of Canton, so that means that I own part of the lake, right?
Correct.
A citizen of Canton.
Correct, as a taxpayer.
As a citizen of Canton, I do not want Canton Lake sold, developed, or leased. As a citizen, that is my voice. I want you to hear me.
I hear you loud and clear. Hang on a second.
The council is not listening.
I'm thinking they're hearing you loud and clear. They're all up here. So, 1 minute, Eric. That's where it's a fine line that we as aldermen have to look at. What's the best interest in the city as a whole? You cannot just look at, okay, it's going to bring in X amount of development. You can't just look at what it's going to generate to the city financially and all that stuff. You got to look at the whole picture. You got to look at the fact that I'm going to just throw this out here, if Canton Park District decided to sell Lakeland Park to a private developer, you would all be in just as much uproar as you are now, and you have every right to be, because you've given up a little over a mile of shoreline if this development agreement passes. And that's where the aldermen, we as aldermen and alderwomen, we've got to look at everything. You've got to look at the whole piece of the pie. Is this a good investment for the city? Is it going to generate enough tax revenue for the city? What are we pulling away from the citizens of Canton at the expense of these increases? So I do truly believe we all hear you loud and clear. I know there's been a lot of loud and clear directed at me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So that's the part. You can't just focus on one item. You got to look at the whole picture. So, Eric, you had a question?
Maybe you're going to address it later, but the sale, they're going to purchase so many acres.
Mm-hmm.
How much money is mandated that the city has to put back into, like the roads and other things, that's going to have to come out of that sale money? Do you have that number?
We are not anywhere near that part yet. I would have to say that's the second pie in the oven that we haven't put in. When I met with the attorney, I talked to him about the purchase portion of it, and he says we are nowhere close on that one. We're only concentrating on this one. As far as getting final numbers, we don't know whether we know we're not going to shut off the road, but we don't know what all hard dollar amounts in bids as to what all we're going to have to do, if we have to fence the campground in, whether we don't, and some of the other things that they're going to require. There is no hard number yet. Yeah.
If I understand, the question was, what are we going to do with the money from the sale? Was that?
Well, yeah, because on the original proposal, it was 2 cul-de-sacs and possibly some guardrails and different things. Well, if that money's coming out of the sale, then you're putting that money right back into what they want. It's like, why doesn't the city develop it itself? And
Well, number one, we don't have the resources to develop it, properly. We have discussed amongst ourselves that we would earmark that money to stay at the lake. So, and personally, I don't want to see it tossed into the general fund and used for other things. That was just an idea that we batted around. But as far as, I think Alderman Putrich, correctly stated, we're not even close to talking to anyone about the land sale right now. Sorry, we're still in discussion. We're not even close to that issue yet. We're still discussing, the possibility of lease. So I hope that answered your question. We haven't decided.
Citizens are kind of confused because there was one proposal and then now there's a counter proposal, but we don't see it. We don't know what the proposals are. We just like to know what's going on.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't see them all immediately either, all emailed, and they're all electronic, so we're all making notes. He's got a hard copy of what's on his computer, and we're still making notes, so until we get something rock solid, and before anybody would vote on it, that I've told many people that you're more than happy to look at our counter proposal, but to continue to see these over and over again, they're not going to make any more sense than what they do now, because we're still in constant negotiations. So, but when we get down to the final product, absolutely, you know, you have every right in the world to see it, and we have no reason to hide anything. And we said from the beginning that, or at least I did, that this thing was going to be transparent. That's why we're having these meetings. Okay? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Does the city of Canton own any other land that could be developed and get the tax revenue from?
We own
Is that all?
we own a lot of land around the lake, like the old motorcycle track. We own a farm, but
What about the other land developing that?
okay. Here's the key. Here's the key. Well, there's other developments in the city, but we can't get a developer interested in that.
Why not?
I don't know. They don't want to spend the money. I don't want the lakefront. I mean, it is more appealing. So, I mean, it's simple.
Ground ready for buildings that would be.
Well, all I'm saying is we've talked to other developers. I personally I've talked to at least 5 developers, and I've been on the phone, and I've literally begged people to come and please look at the old golf course. There's some land on 4th Avenue. I'm not interested. I mean, Todd, you face that with our committee, you know.
How about Westview?
Yeah, we thought we had something cooking there too, and it fell through. So it's not that we're stopped looking. I have not definitely stopped looking. I'm still, you know, bothering people to come to Canton and build so we can have some new housing. But the question I get posed back to me is, what's in it for me? What's in Canton? How can I draw people there? So, and that's the other side of that coin. That's where we're fighting desperately with the Spooner Economic Development with Fulton County to try to draw more light industry, more businesses that are family oriented. Those are the things that are difficult in the area that we live in and the America that's dying. And we're part of it.
Tax incentives or incentives that you could tack on to?
We have TIFs. We have, first I just love somebody to sit down and talk to us. We have all these options we have to us, but it's just tough to get some people in here to talk to us about opening those things up. Yes, we're open to all of that.
What kind of structures are we talking about? I mean, are you 6 and 8 room houses or 700 square foot shacks to hunt from?
No, they all do have a minimum square footage requirement.
Which is?
The minimum closest to the campground is 1,000 square foot dimensions in their proposal. And it'll go, and it's stated at least 1,000 square feet. So if somebody wanted a lot that has said they want to put up a 3,000 square foot home, they can put it on one of them 1,000 minimums as long as it'll fit on the lot according to the setbacks. So they're looking at 8 lots of upper end development, 2,500 square foot and above. And so I think if I remember right, I don't have that with me, you have 1,000, minimum 1,000, a minimum of 1,500, minimum of 2,500, somewhere in that. But so no, there won't be no 10 foot by 20 foot little cabins out there.
These will all be in the ground, so they're taxable.
And they are all in the ground and have to be taxable. They can't be built on skids. Go ahead.
Has the city ever looked at the land by Hitchcock that's abandoned coal mine land?
Whereabouts you talking? South of town?
Go past Hitchcock, before the tracks, there's a sign that says abandoned coal mine land, and they're doing reclamation on it. What about considering that for an option where people can come and develop that?
Well, there's a lot of options out there. If you go outside the city limits, the problem is what's available inside the city boundaries. There's not a lot available. Most everything.
Lake isn't in the city, so I don't.
Pardon me?
We don't own that land.
We're going to annex that, sir, so it is in the city. That way, the school district would benefit from taxes, the city would benefit from taxes. What you're talking about is a major problem that we deal with right now. Somebody can go into an area, drag a bulldozer down the middle of it, throw some gravel on it, call it a road, and start popping houses up. We can't do that. It's against our ordinances, so we have to deal with those things, the infrastructure and anything else.
Okay, I think you were next.
I want to go back. In all regards to your city attorney, you said this could not be put on a ballot. Let's say that you, the alderman, the mayor, all the people want to get the monkey off your back, and is he telling me that they cannot ever be put on a ballot for a vote?
It has to be like a sales tax referendum. There are certain guidelines that you have to go to the public for. This does not meet any of them guidelines.
That was a tax.
Because it was a tax increase.
And I don't know, but they're saying that's because it was based on a tax increase.
So you people on the council and the mayor, if you wanted to get it off your back, you still can't put it on a referendum?
No.
Okay.
No. Let me get these other questions first. Ted, I think you were next.
When you annex the lake, are you going to start annexing at Bradley Corner and Plymouth Avenue and annex all of the people there?
I would like to say, I'm going to go against the mayor here. I don't think we're anywhere near talking about annexing yet. Because you've got to have homes, or, I mean, we don't have a hardcore.
You're not going against me, you're right. I mean, no, we're not to that point. Yeah.
You know, could that be a goal? Could be, could it not? It can go either way. Yeah. To me, there's no sense even talking about that. It's off topic, and we're nowhere, that's way on down the line.
Well, I think you brought it up because it was stated that we were going to annex that in, and great.
Nothing up here that anybody said so far is cast in stone, other than that it doesn't have to go to referendum. That is cast in stone. Yes.
To be annexed in, isn't it a requirement that subdivisions have to be on sewer system?
That could be. I don't even want to talk about that tonight, because the majority of people here aren't here about the annexation. They're here about the bid and the lake. That's kind of going back to, we need to stay on topic. We're not even going to bring up all them set of rules and everything until, number one, all the aldermen had time to research. And when you get to that point, I can't forecast what somebody's going to ask me 6 months from now, but once they ask me, then I go do my research. So I don't have enough knowledge on that, but that's not what this meeting's about. If it got to that point on down the road, if we needed another public hearing, we would do it. Okay. Did I thought one other, yeah.
Okay, I think in the original proposal, and please correct me if I'm wrong, 40 lots, and each of those lots could have a 35-foot dock going into?
The original proposal was 44 lots.
44.
And it consisted of 24.5 acres per the breakdown with the ramp in between them.
But it could be 35 feet to the lake.
That's what's on it.
Okay, has that been counted? 40 and the 35-foot of length.
Yeah, because you're only allowed I believe it's 15 on the other side. So that's in some of the orange to be discussed. And I want to go back and address one thing. The reason I'm not blasting emails of a counter proposal, because we don't have one done. I'm not going to send a whole proposal every single day when we may have only added 3 words or changed 1 word. Till we get to the final product, taking everything you guys are telling everybody up here and going through it, there will not be a vote taken, and nothing, like the mayor says, we're going to be transparent. When all these aldermen said this is our counter, and we go back and forth, then it would be my vote to to get it out to all of you via email, however you want to do it. And if we have to, we can have another meeting. But you will see if we ever get to a final point. So I'm going to take one more and then I'm going to let Alderman Jump come up here.
Ted, I have a question. Where they're proposing a 35 or 32-foot dock, how wide is that lake right there?
Portions of their lots from what they had in one of their handouts was going to be a minimum of like an average between 100 and 130 feet. I am still working on language to make sure it doesn't end up in a pie-shaped lot.
I meant if they put a 32-foot dock out into.
So you're talking about the length, not how much lake frontage they have.
No, I'm talking about how wide is that lake area right there with docks coming out that far into the lake?
Well, most of your pontoons are either 20 to 24 foot on average out at Canton Lake.
Right.
So you're looking, sticking out about another 10 to 15 feet
Right.
to get out farther. I believe part of the reason, and I'm only speculating here, this is only my opinion, that they're wanting the 32 foot is because into the north end of the lake, closer to the bank, it's only like 5 foot deep. So they're going to need to be able to get them docks on out farther into the lake.
But how much room does that leave from the end of those docks?
I'm going to guesstimate without having whatever one of them golf viewfinders tell how far you are to the hole. I'm going to guesstimate there's probably 200 yards.
So if this thing goes through and you allow that,
Mhm.
are you gonna allow that much, let us on the other side of the lake, are you gonna let us build docks that far?
We're not that far, but if I'm going to let one side do it,
Yeah.
I'm going to fight for the other side. Yep. To me, it's not in our best interest not to have the rules be the same for everybody. But
From what I understand, your council may be ready to make that shorter.
yeah, that's still open. Now I'm going to let Alderman Jump, I know he had some comments.
Hold on one second. We're switching tapes.
Switching tapes.
Yeah, so hold on one second.
Can everybody to hear me back still hear me? Sorry, I feel like I'm screaming at you guys. I'm not. I just want to make sure they can hear me back there. I don't have that Coach McDowell voice. We're switching tapes, so just 1 second, guys. What's that?
The restroom.
We good? All right, guys, the one point, I want to clarify the annexation part a little bit. I don't want to go against what Alderman Putrich said, but to clarify something, because we have had these discussions with the city engineer. If you pose it this way, I don't know about additional annexation, and I don't want to go there tonight either, but for annexation of this parcel, how does that happen? Because there's been a lot of question there, and doesn't it have to be contiguous? And the answer, we believe, is that there is the city farm that is located to the west of 20th Avenue. And then, so it would go north through the county farm, which is city-owned property. That's why we can annex it in. That would go out farther north, and then it would bend east, if I get my directions right, go north and then east, which would wrap around, start, and then it would hit the edge of the lake, wrap around to where they're proposing. So that's how that annexation brings that parcel in. So just to clarify that, so you understand how do we bring this in the city, that's how we do it if we can. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that because I'll be honest, for this, any version of this counter proposal or proposal to get my support will require annexation, because that's how we get our tax revenue off it. So at least for my support. So But to go back to that, there was something brought up earlier, and I want to take a poll. Okay? If this whole thing is scrapped, I want to go back to the biggest thing and why I think this is so important is residential housing, folks. We have got to create residential housing in the city of Canton. It's got to happen. Okay? What if the city were to offer for bid the motorcycle grounds? Can I have a show of hands of how many more people might be in support of that type of residential development versus this one?
Where is that ground at?
That would be off Seabury Road, the north end.
You have no friends that ride motorcycles. It's not me and you now.
So my point is, guys, that's just one option. That's one option. And I'm not saying that's what we would do, but I want ideas on how we can continue developing residential homes in the city of Canton. It's crucial that we do that. We have had 5 new residential housing permits in the last 3 years. That is a concerning number on a lot of elements, guys. Our expenses are continuing to increase, and to go back to what the comptroller was speaking to, the property taxes, we don't want to raise them, guys, and if we can increase our tax base, then we bring in more tax revenue without increasing taxes on everybody. So that's why we want to find a way to find an area to build homes that we can tax and get the property taxes of. Because to give you guys a ballpark, if you guys listen to the budget meeting on last Tuesday, we are starting in the hole of 600-odd thousand before we even start. That's a big number that we have to get over. And so we have to think outside the box and think about development if we want to start fixing some things. So I'm not saying this is the answer, but if you guys have other areas in the city of Canton that you think that could be developed, please share them with us because I'm all ears.
But isn't the fact that there's nothing in Canton, there's no businesses, there's nothing here to entice anybody to come to Canton? So why do we need the building of the houses for the taxes? Why can't you get some businesses to come in and create those taxes?
We have to create an attractive market to bring those businesses in.
They've tried to come in, and this town has always pushed them aside.
And that's why I want to start being open to development. So that's where we have to change our attitude, guys. We have to be open-minded. We have to consider our options. And that's what I want to make sure that we're thinking of any alternatives we have. If this doesn't go through, where's the next place we can try to turn to development? I had a few questions.
If the homes that are available now that people are unable to sell or move, well, how's that ratio with people with the city of town this size of Canton? Is that normal? Because there's houses up and down my street that have been for sale for a year or two.
Ask a realtor. I mean,
ask a realtor.
There's no money. Nobody can fix their house selling.
I don't want to get too far off topic, guys. Tonight we're just talking about the lake, but anytime you have something, please address it. But
about the residential development at the lake, but on a smaller scale, instead of 44, maybe 15 and 12.
And we've had the one possibility we've discussed, again, this is a possibility on a proposal, is what if we did an option type of deal again, where if you proposed, if you built X number of lots and developed them and sold them, then maybe the city would consider an additional lot of, and that way you're not doing 44 at once, you're doing it segment by segment. I will tell you the problem that I foresee with that is that the cost of the infrastructure, if they choose to bring it out there. That's just something we would have to come to an agreement with them, as if they would be willing to bring the infrastructure out without having all of it. And I don't know the answer to that. That would be up to them, but that's something certainly we've talked about.
Why not leave the public side alone and go to the east side where there's still some areas over there that can be built?
And some of we've started the process a little bit with the projects on Dalbar and some of them, but.
Yeah. We're looking at that, Goose.
Yeah, down past my place, over towards the creek area. I mean, there's areas right in there that are a lot better shape to build on than what you're proposing to build on now.
And so I'm going to stop there, and I'll let your question. I see you 1 second. Okay, okay. Well, hold on. Was that Lisa? I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Not really a question, it's a comment, and I know we're probably all waiting for this,
but I'm for this idea. And I think the point that was brought up about, well, there's nothing in Canton and why, nothing will come. Well, nothing will change if everything stays the same. I mean, we can't get people to come in if we have nowhere to build. Or if we want to say, my God, we want things to stay the way they've always been. International's gone. We heard the same thing going on when Cook wanted to come to town. It was going to be Cookville. And I know a lot of people that work there. Our mower mows their lot. I mean, it's a trickle-down effect. Also, we have a lot out at Goose Ranch, and it's not a refugee camp. It's a great place to camp. They have done everything that they ever told us that they would do on improvements. So I think it has to be a win-win for the city, and it obviously has to be for the Hermans. I mean, there has to be a win-win. No one's going to come and develop anything if they're not going to make money. So I commend you guys for thinking outside the box. We need to do something, or Canton will never grow.
I'm going to take Eric's, then I'm going to turn it back over to Alderman Putrich. But
I just had a quick question about the annexation. Are you planning on grabbing the farm and the motorcycle track as you make your way around?
I think we have to.
Is that your grand plan, the motorcycle track also?
The question was, if they annex it, would we also be annexing the farm and the property leading north and east to the parcel? And I believe the answer, and I'll defer to the city attorney, is we would have to do that in order to make it contiguous.
What about between 20th and Boat Dock? All those houses. And then other side of Boat Dock? I think the other side of Boat Dock is...
Or are you talking the other side? I'm sorry. So you'd be talking the south end of Seabury and... Yeah, we don't have any right. I don't think we have any right to do that at this point. The other part is all city-owned property, which is how they would. So we have no pre-annexation agreements with those, and we don't sell any water to them. So we wouldn't have the ability to annex the lots at this point that you mentioned. Alderman Putrich. I just wanted to address a couple of those things.
Well, I know that city water goes out so far on Boat Dock because there's fire hydrants and then they just stop.
Exactly right, yeah. Well, it goes up Parkway. It does not serve that whole subdivision out there.
Go ahead. Back there first.
Where are you going to put all the extra folks?
Where you can
Get out the land weekend. I mean, it's just about filled up right now. Ask anybody that's got a boat and goes out there. Probably find a place to park your boat and trailer. Everything's full. And then there's so many boats on the lake, they'll get to the point where, especially somebody's not well-educated in water boats, if you can take a loan on the boat.
And that's definitely been looked into. I'm probably one of the few aldermen that's out there most every day, including weekends, because that's my job as well. Anybody that's drove out by there on a weekend, a Saturday and Sunday, that the weather's been nice, you'll notice that there's people parking in the grass because the parking lot isn't big enough. So that's some of the concerns I've had as far as if they're selling every lot around there and you're wanting to make this a premier fishing lake and draw a lot of outsiders, where are they going to park? There's not going to be any room for them. So, but as far as the safety issue, it's being looked at very hard due to overcrowding.
Walking out the lake, I was for 10 years, I'm retired, and I walk that lake every day. From the dam over to the beach. And I can tell you, the lake is being destroyed by four-wheel drive trucks and whatnot. All back in the woods, all tore up. There used to be nice, beautiful grassy areas of all mud. That needs to be looked at. But if you take all that area and make one, I mean, the lake's gone. That's all.
And that's, like I say, we're addressing that. We've been fighting vandalism out at the lake, I'm sure, since before I was an alderman, but we have been fighting it every summer since I've been on it, and I think I can pretty much speak for, we've probably been fighting that for the last 20 years.
We're going to address it this year, for sure.
Okay, there was somebody else over there that stood up.
We got city water right on the east side, or the east side of the lake. We all signed pre-annexation agreements to get water.
On whereabouts you located?
He's on Lake Lot.
East side.
He lives on the east side of the lake.
East side of the lake, so he's on Lake Lot.
Right.
Or on a lot that, yeah, beside pre-annexation agreement, they could annex it if they wanted to.
So I guess the answer to your question is, if you signed a pre-annexation agreement, we could end up annexing you in as long as it meets all the requirements.
That's part of getting water, they have to sign a pre-annexation agreement.
That's just part of getting water. If you signed that pre-annexation agreement and got water, then any time that we would propose to annex that area, you have to be annexed in whether you agree or not agree. Okay.
What I don't understand is why don't you annex those people on Chestnut Street on our lake? Because everybody.
Do they have pre-annexation agreements? I know we went out there a little ways on the north side of Chestnut.
Not every one of them does have city water. But the city could, it's just going from.
You come up, you're better at that.
That's what I was just asking, that thing I was just asking about.
I'll just keep it simple.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Okay. I wanted to go to the middle where everybody could hear me. So I'm Keith Plavick, city engineer. So to answer your question was, if I heard it correctly, there's houses along East Chestnut Street that currently have city water. Why doesn't the city annex those houses in? Is that correct? Okay. So we have the same issue on West Hickory. When you go out past the wastewater treatment plant, there's houses on the south side of the road. A lot of those have water as well. When we start annexing property, we also have to look at what are we taking on as far as responsibilities for the roadway. So how many of you have driven Canton Cuba Blacktop? Is that a very good road to drive? Do you as taxpayers want that road to maintain in the future? No. So that's why we didn't annex it. So you are correct. There are lots that we could go through. I don't know, to answer your question, if everybody has water going out on East Chestnut. Just like on West Hickory, there's some that don't. So you have to be contiguous in order to continue to annex. So that's why we could look at it, but it's not as easy just taking the property and getting the property taxes. The county's then going to want to turn over the roadway to the city, and do we want to maintain that route is the key. So the county will definitely turn it over, I know, right there.
Thanks, Keith.
And part of that is due, what Keith is talking about, the expense to take care of the road way more exceeds the revenue you would ever get in tax revenue. And that's why we look at things and some of the other annexations that, if we annex the whole east side, then we're going to have to start maintaining the roads a lot better than what we do now. So
Yeah, we do it. We maintain our own roads.
We do it all the time, tractor.
go ahead.
Is there any plans to do an environmental risk assessment on what these developments are going to do to?
That's still being talked about until we would get closer to accepting. We would not spend the money at this juncture right now to do that. So that's still in the part of that orange writing I showed you on that agreement. And go ahead.
All right, we're talking about putting these docks out into the channel where we, as we call out to Camp Lake, the fast lane, or
It's a skiing area.
You do your ski-doos, your speedboats, your skiing, all that. These docks are going to come out in that area. How much area are we really going to have to entertain if you're going to allow that much of a dock on each side? And this development is to make entertainment for people to come. You're taking it away.
That's still like I,
Community, can't we all come up with some ideas?
well, that,
Entertainment and start emailing you with other ideas other than this?
and that's
For
what,
businesses to come in?
that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to listen to any ideas. But like I say, that was, as I said earlier, that's one point still being discussed. We can't give 32 feet to a private investor and not give the same rules to the east side. So that's what I said. That's not cast in stone.
And then, who's going to patrol the lake? I mean, who's going to keep it separated from the area that you can go fast and the area that's supposed to be?
It's been discussed that the city would be getting some part-time help to patrol the lake during peak times, so it doesn't require a full-time person. Also been proposed about another officer to free up some more time for going out there and checking things over. It's all still in the early stages, because we're not only talking about this, but we got a budget we have to live with too. So when one of our department heads, I'm going to throw Dash under the bus here, he wanted a new truck. It's in his proposal, but I told him it's like my kids' Christmas list. They fill out this list of what they want, and then I go to my wife and says, here's what I can give you to spend. And that's the same thing we are doing as aldermen. They turn in their Christmas list, and then we go back with reality. So this is all, like I say, we haven't even decided if we're going to vote on this or agree to it. So there's going to be, the best thing about this whole deal, from my standpoint, I've been bringing up some improvements over the last 5 or 6 months since I got appointed to the Lakes Buildings and Grounds Committee. I know Alderman Lovell brought up some ideas. Prior to that, when he was in charge, a lot of these ideas get shot down because of money. The best thing this whole thing has brought up is a need for the city to do a better job of taking care of the lake. If we took care of the city cemetery like we've been taking care of Canton Lake, there's not a building in town big enough for all the extended families that would come back to us. So bottom line is, we've got to do a better job as city officials. So that's what we're trying to work on. We're either trying to make it for the best interest of the city if we accept this, or if we don't accept it, now the monkey's back on our back to where we're going to start putting some money back in out there that should have been put back in there the last 25 years of taking care of things.
Wasn't there and I'm not going to throw a number out there because I've heard too many numbers. Wasn't there a fund allocated for the lake improvements over the last X amount of years?
I can't say exactly how long it's been separated, but for as long as I've been familiar with the lake and been involved on council, even prior to being on the Lakes Committee, there's always been a separate fund.
Correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't some of that fund also put towards the treatment plant, or the water treatment plant?
I do believe there's some shared expenses that, I don't know, how do I word this right? There is some shared expenses. When we originally talked about the fuel, I talked more about accuracy or records, not just estimating one tank, to where we can start doing a better job. This is for that fund. This is the water fund. Because I don't want this paying for things that this should have been paying for over here, and vice versa.
Wasn't the bond project supposed to take care of the water treatment plant? So why is
the bond project took care of the water treatment plant. It was the dam that made up the lake funds paid part towards the dam repair. Can you say it is part of the lake fund? most definitely qualifies. But as a backup water source, of my opinion, should come out of the water department budget. But that's just kind of the old adage, when you don't have enough money in your left pocket, you reach into your right pocket because you can interrelate them. Kelly.
When you're talking about having 32 feet of lodge out there, my concern is the safety of the boaters, skiers, tubers. So is this lake just going to become a fishing lake like it is out at Goose Ranch? Because there was a ski lake out there as well, correct?
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
Yes, I mean, we don't, as I'm sure there's a lot of lake people here that don't want that to happen. We don't want to just troll around on a little motor.
I think I can speak for every alderman involved that if they said they wanted to make it idle only or anything, that would not pass. There wouldn't even be a question on it.
We wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah, you guys wouldn't even got to hear the answer because it would have been a resounding no. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. We're going to go kind of talk about the fisheries. I'm going to just be real short on this. So number 4, their goal was to take the boat ramp sticker fee money, and put it back into the betterment of the lake by fish stocking, reef structure,
Lake Patrol.
Well, I don't think any of it was going to Lake Patrol.
I think we discussed that, but go ahead.
Yeah, in their original proposal, that's what it was about. And what I've met with our attorney on is, number 1, I don't want to see it going to campground improvements. I would want X amount of percentage to be in fishery stocking, X amount of percentage being spent in ramp repair. I don't think it's in the city's best interest to put all $10,000, approximately $10,000, back into fish stocking every single year. So that was one of the requirements I had met with our attorney, saying we need a better breakdown of this. Because I don't want all that money going to pay for rewiring it at the campground and let the boat dock go downhill. So I'm going to leave item 4 mainly, if the Hermans want to bring that up. But what I want to highlight about that point is this is still in a negotiation stage. So there's no hardcore answer on the fish stocking. I don't believe they have a hardcore answer. Because some of these proposals, you got to know if there's going to be a will for it to even be accepted before you start worrying about the fine details. So that's going to bring us up to number 5.
Hasn't the DNR stocked a lake or
They have, on and off over the years. The DNR has stocked it. They were out there last year and they checked to see what type of species that are out at the lake, and that was in conjunction with the Hermans. I've heard all the stories that the Hermans took the fish that the DNR shocked and took them out to their goose ranch. Trust me, it's not true. The city was well aware that they were out there seeing what we had, what we didn't have, to just get a plan what the city needs. So as far as the restocking, they know their business better than I do on what's stunted, what's growing good, what's lacking. DNR, it would be in conjunction. It would not be totally up to them. It would be in conjunction on restocking with the DNR and the city council and department heads. So it wasn't like they'd have sole control. So now discuss and
I'd like to jump down real quick in that before if Chad and Nate want to come up, because we're probably going to get blasted with a bunch of questions. We had some people that wanted to make some comments. So I thought we'd do that now, and then we'll have, if the Hermans like to come up after that, you guys, I know they're probably going to inundate with a lot of questions. Lee, did you have anything to say? Okay, then I know Mr. Green, and then Eric, you're next. Anybody else want to speak so I get some
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, a lot of people here. My name's Tim Lindsay. I am Vice President out at Youth Acres, and I'm here representing Youth Acres and our board members. And I'm going to read this to you because I'm not good in front of people. So we've been a part of Canton Lake since the 1940s. We've had tens of thousands of youth come through our gates over the past 78 years. I'm sure even some of you have been out there. We love being a part of Canton Lake and the surrounding community. Canton Lake is perfect for Youth Acres because of the amount of undeveloped shoreline. This gives lake users plenty of places to canoe, kayak, fish, hike, and even have family picnics. We enjoy kayaking and fishing at Canton Lake because it's quiet with moderate boat traffic, and we enjoy the wildlife and the scenery. What does this proposal mean to Youth Acres? If our city can allow a third-party company to come in and take over something that means so much to its residents and get so little in return, after they have finished with this development, what next? Youth Acres? Youth Acres has a lease through 2099, but we all know that leases can be broken. There's no guarantee of the future of Youth Acres if this proposal goes through. I want my kids and their kids to enjoy Youth Acres and Canton Lake like we all have. Remember that quiet, nice place to kayak and fish? If this proposal goes through, boat traffic's going to double, trees will be demolished, wildlife will be pushed out. Goodbye to Canton Lake as we know it today. Thank you.
I'm John Green. I am the president of the Youth Acres, and I've been there for 30 years. I run Youth Acres, and I sit there on the east side and look on the west side, see those trees over there. I've seen eagles over there, and if they develop this land, the eagles are be gone. They won't be there no more. They will go somewhere else. Also, we have fishing tournaments out there for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, and if there's more boats and activity on that lake, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, when they're all these boats going up and down, pontoons going up and down, they're out there fishing. Guess what happens to their fishing line? They're on the bank. All that fish line will come right back. And these little kids, they love doing that. I'm here to ask the public, make sure that Youth Acres is there to 2099. And I want your support, make sure we have that there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Barnard. I have boated at Canton Lake for many years. First of all, I'd like to clear up just a slight miscommunication on a letter to the editor that I was a part of. In speaking of annexing subdivisions, the subdivision north of town is called Northgate. It has nothing to do with Brotherhood Farms. I just wanted to publicly clear up that misunderstanding. Okay, now on to business. A few reasons the council should reject this proposal, in my opinion. The first is safety. In the Herman Brothers wording of their proposal, I'm going to quote this. They said, move the no-wake zone back a few hundred yards to allow more room for water skiing. There is a large demand and little supply for places to water ski in this area. So they have stated this. As far as safety goes, as far as I can tell, in the water skiing, tubing area, whatever, as far as usable water, there's probably 70 to 80 acres, if you take out the coves in that ballpark. I was reading a study from the University of Indiana, and they said a suggested density for water skiing only is 15 to 20 acres per boat. So that comes out to only 3 or 4 boats at the same time, tubing, water skiing, vice versa. If you're adding 44 more boats, give or take, whatever that number might be, that is going to congest that way too much. I'm still on safety here. According to the Illinois DNR and the Coast Guard safety measures, a towboat should stay twice the distance of a pull rope away from docks, swim areas, the shores, and other boats. A normal ski rope's 75 feet, give or take. That leaves a boat 150 feet away from all structures. Parts of the ski area are too narrow for two boats to pass safely now. So that's also going to put the tubers and skiers at risk. And you know how it is on a tube when you're swinging somebody. It can get a little hairy out there at times. I've been there. I've been on both sides of it. So sorry if I tick somebody off when I'm driving the boat. But if we're allowing more docks in this area, that's also going to be another hazard, for the kids and people behind the boats. Okay, so here's another little thing I just want to, and I'll quit after this, but this is a little analogy on the proposal submitted to the council. Let's say I wanted to get a quote to redo my kitchen. I asked for a bid for 7 to 10 cabinets to redo my kitchen. And then the contractor comes back with a bid with 44 of them little skinny cookie sheet, the things right next to your oven, you know how skinny they are. I tell that contractor to hit the bricks. I mean, this is what I feel the Hermans have proposed to the city. It's not practical, and it's not what the city was asking for. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Eric.
Come on. I just want to clarify on his second comment. There was a total misunderstanding on moving, extending Herman Brothers Defense. They thought there was another no wake area to the north and northwest of the north boat ramp. So there is not one up there. Technically there is, because it'll drop down to about a foot deep if you get back too far there. But the original no wake area, that was a total misunderstanding. It will stay exactly the same way it is. So I'll let you come on up.
Come on, Chad.
Want to thank the mayor and the council for giving me the opportunity to give my opinion.
Come on,
I've lived around here since 1955. I've used the lake shore for fishing, mushroom hunting, and just going out in the evenings and enjoying the evening out there along the lake shore. I'm against this proposal, and due respect for all you people, what you're trying to do, but there's something that they don't make anymore, that ground out there. And I would like to see it for everybody's great grandkids to use that as a recreational area rather than build houses on it. And I understand where you people are coming from for the taxes, but I'd like to see it be that way for Canton's big park, and leave it that way forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
And once again, that's why I made the comment, we got to weigh that option of taking away public ground, whether it's 15 feet or 24 acres, and that's...
I appreciate being able to say what I think.
Yep. Anybody else want to come up?
I'd just like to be known that there's 2 breeding pairs of American bald eagles out there, and there's 5 immature eagles that I've documented on videotape. So if you think there's no American bald eagles out there, you're wrong. They are beautiful, absolutely.
I look out my window every morning, and there's 2 bald eagles sitting over there by the dam, one down the street.
It's duly noted. We're looking at the wildlife aspect. We don't have the money to do a study because we're not near that. But this is something that I know Alderwoman Lincolnfelder has been looking into very deeply. So that's, like I say, we're still in the negotiation part. I'll invite the Herman brothers up here now. You guys are welcome to take questions. I'm not going to make you do it. It's totally up to you. And one thing I do want to reiterate on is the mayor's comments at the beginning of the meeting. You can't blame these guys for wanting to do this. That's their business. So I want it very civil. If it doesn't stay civil, this is my meeting, I will shut it down. So you've got to be willing to hear what they have to say, the same way we have to hear the pros and cons out here. That's our job as aldermen. So I don't want to see any booing, anything like that. Treat them with respect. This is what they do. This is a potential for the city that we've never had before. So we've got to consider, as Alderman Jump said, we've got to look at the whole picture. So I don't care which way you feel, hold it to yourself. So go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Nate, and this is my older brother, Chad Herman. What's that?
I said good evening.
Good evening. And we really do want to thank you guys for the opportunity to present the proposal and to be here to talk a little bit tonight. Don't really have anything too professional prepared because we've been in the back listening, and we've been listening basically from day one since the opportunity to place a bid came out, to putting together a proposal, to every meeting and every conversation we've had. We've been listening to everybody, and we want you guys to know we're not big bad developers from Peoria. We live in Hannah City, you know, maybe that helps a little bit, but we live in Hannah City. My parents have lived in Norris for the last 12 years, and now they live out in Canton, out at the Giant Goose Ranch. And we have fallen in love with this community, with this area, and with the opportunity to work here locally. My job personally is managing recreational lakes and ponds for people all across the United States. I do consultations for municipalities with lakes similar to Canton Lake on a regular basis, sportsmen's clubs, campgrounds. I go to speak at a lot of the campground association meetings and help people revitalize their sportsmen's club, their properties for recreation use. And so when the opportunity came up right here in our back door to help the city of Canton utilize Canton Lake, it's something that we just thought was, wow, this is an incredible opportunity to help utilize an unbelievable resource. And we hear the concerns, like the concern even from Youth Acres. We never even had an opportunity to meet with Youth Acres, but this summer, I actually spoke at one of their events for their Boy Scout program, for their Scout program. I was there teaching them about the fisheries of Canton Lake and the area, and it was an incredible event. It's one that I tell people about all the time, at how amazing that program is. And we want to help, we want to help do more for Youth Acres and for any organization in the area. I know that's not necessarily details of a proposal, but it's just, I just wanted to let everybody just give a chance to just talk a little bit, about who we are, what we do. We were able to purchase the Giant Goose Ranch in 2014 and renovate it. And a lot of people have concerns that you're going to make another goose ranch, but this isn't the same thing. This isn't another goose ranch. This is an opportunity for the city of Canton, and we want to be involved in that. We want to help. And in terms of managing the fishery or taking over the lake, they have a protocol in place with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources already, an agreement, and I've been meeting with the head guy for this area who's in charge of it, and he's passionate about Canton Lake. His hands are tied, though, with what he's able to do there. He's able to do sampling. He's able to come up with recommendations, but he has no funds to work with to really even implement many of those recommendations. So that's where we came up with, well, if we could utilize boat sticker revenue to come up with the funds for that, we can help bridge the gap between the city, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and what the lake actually does need, or what opportunities would present themselves there. I know we were on the agenda a little bit to talk about fisheries. Canton Lake has an incredible opportunity.
This could take a half hour.
I want to talk about fish all night long. But it has an incredible opportunity to be, if not the best fishery in the state of Illinois, right there next to it. There's species of fish that don't naturally reproduce in the lake, but that would thrive in the lake because of the forage base. Currently, there is an overabundance of gizzard shad in the lake. The crappie population is on the rise. There was a big crappie die-off in the year 2008, and since then, the crappie population has taken off. It is an unbelievable crappie fishery, but that's not on a course to sustain itself. The gizzard shad are taking over. The largemouth bass aren't reproducing very well. The ones that are in there are growing really big, has some very quality largemouth bass, but it needs more. It needs more predators stocked. Fish like largemouth bass, walleyes, and even regular striped bass that would grow about 15, 20 pounds would eat up a lot of those gizzard shad, which the big size, which would help actually spur on more reproduction of gizzard shad, but they would stay smaller, and then they would feed our crappies and our smaller bass. And currently our bluegill population in Canton Lake isn't very well because of the competition with the common carp and the gizzard shad. And so we would want the opportunity not to take over the lake, but to have a voice with the Lake Committee and with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and with ideas to create funding to make these things possible, for the lake. So, I mean, I could talk about the fish all night long. I know Chad probably has a few things to say. He's a lot more proper than I am. I just talk a lot, but that's not necessarily much substance there. But we would like to answer any questions as well.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Thanks again for the opportunity. And just from the very beginning, our whole goal was a collaboration. You'll see even in our proposal, big picture, we knew that we weren't going to be able to hit all the needs or the points or the history of the lake with our proposal. So if you read it, it does state we want to have a collaboration with the city of Canton, with the zoning, with the aldermen of Canton, to come up with a plan that is a win-win for everybody. And so on the high level, that's where we are on the negotiating table. We want to show our hand, and we want to be very honest and upfront with what we prefer, and then work with the city and what you guys need. And I do want to take a little bit of time and just say, for the campground and for the subdivision, what we do, we want to do well. And our proposal, I know is being kind of beaten down with how many lots and such, but 44 lots on 25 acres is a very generous lot size. You guys compare that to a lot of the lots in the city of Canton and in all cities, and you're going to find that half acre or more average is a wonderful lot size and is very doable in that area with the topography that is there. And we're here to collaborate with the city. We have read their reposition or their what's the word? Yeah, the counter proposals. Thank you. Just like the ramps, the counter proposal, and nothing there is a deal breaker. We're here to collaborate, and we're here to work together and come up with a plan that works for everybody. I know there'll be people that it won't please, but we will try to please as many as we can with what we propose. And we are definitely here. You can call us, you can talk to us, you can bring your concerns as well, to listen to you as well, to try to get the city the infrastructure that it needs. So,
would you address the bald eagle issue, please?
I can address it. Yeah.
I'm not an expert bald eagle, so I'm going to give them the floor.
So we have actually done a lot of developing around the Giant Goose Ranch, and those are campground lots. And we have more bald eagles out at the Giant Goose Ranch right now than ever before in the history. One, because we stock a lot of rainbow trout in there, and they love to eat the rainbow trout. But there's a lot of eagles out there, and there are a lot of campsites. There are 481 lakefront campsites / cabin sites out at the Giant Goose Ranch, surrounding a lot of the lakes. They're almost all lakefront, and there are a lot of eagles. There's more now than there was 5 years ago there at the Goose Ranch. I love bald eagles.
How many underprivileged kids can go out to the Goose Ranch and see those eagles?
The question is, how many underprivileged kids can come out to the Giant Goose?
Families, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because this is a natural habitat where somebody can go out on a Sunday and see them. Your area is confined, and unless you have a membership, nobody's ever going to see them unless they're televised. That was my only point. I'm not criticizing or anything.
No, well, it's a good point. The Giant Goose Ranch is a private campground. And so it isn't open for the public just to come and go out there. But we have raised at the Giant Goose Ranch over $150,000 for Camp Big Sky for their annual fundraisers. We have handicap tournaments, our special needs tournaments. We have a lot of just fundraisers where they bring out, like our favorite one is the Camp Big Sky one, where they bring 30 residents from like the Morton, what do they call the new name? Is the Morton Handicapped Home, they call it Epic. So they bring those residents out and we pair them up with 30 professional bass anglers, and they take them out fishing. We set up a big grand stage. They get to come up and hold up their fish in front of everybody. We've done events with Graham Hospital, and any local organization that has contacted us, we allow them to come out and have their fundraisers, have their family days, have a lot of those opportunities. So the number is into the hundreds and thousands of underprivileged kids or people to be able to come out and utilize. Yeah, and
Isn't that only on one certain day?
it's
Your
on,
fundraiser?
well, that particular one comprises 2 days, but we do probably 5 to 7. We've done Hooked on Fishing Park fundraisers, family days. We've done Graham Hospital family days, where the whole town is invited.
But I think his question was for handicapped kids. Your handicap fundraisers for kids is like 2 days.
It's underprivileged.
Or underprivileged.
I'm just talking about poor people in general.
Sure.
The county's not a very prosperous county.
Yeah. And at Canton Lake, the so repeat that, please.
Families that, can't afford to go on vacation in the summer, so they pack up their kids in their little tent and they go to Canton Lake, and that's their vacation.
So the question is will people be able to still afford to go to Canton Lake? And in our original proposal, the one rate change we did propose to change for Canton residents was the daily overnight camping, which was at $10, and we proposed to make it $20 a night with a 2-night minimum. We have heard a lot of people say that that's going to be too expensive for a lot of the families in town, and I know the council has been addressing that, and I know we've been internally addressing that, and we would love to figure out a scholarship or a opportunity where those families would still be able to continue camping at Canton Lake Campground.
Would you address the ADA fishing?
Oh, yeah.
That we talked about?
And so we also would like to be creative in coming up with ways to create handicapped accessible fishing dock or docks strategically placed around the lake, which will be open to the public all times, at all times. And that area from the dam all the way to the campground is actually a pretty large area. It's not like the whole west side is shut off completely. It's a pretty large area, and I don't know currently the rules of on the dam itself. Are people allowed to fish on the dam itself? No. Is there a particular reason why that we can get into at another time?
Yeah.
But
yeah, and one more question, big picture to that is that our family is really big into children and having great events for them. So our Norris Lake that we had, there was thousands of kids that went through that lake hundreds every year, but overall thousands that have gone through that lake and experienced camps just at no cost as a private venture. And also in our proposal is we have been discussing with the aldermen the opportunities you guys have with all the land that you own around the lake to create more public fishing or more public opportunities, and we would definitely be open to being a solution for helping get that access around the lake in those east and north sides. Yeah, we talked about a nature trail and on that whole area of the lake that we would definitely try to help facilitate in creating. And we're really open to your questions.
I'm sure it's an honorable thing that you do for the underprivileged people out there, but it's not the same as John Doe wants to take his kids out to the lake fishing some evening, and he don't have to ask anybody or wait for you to promote something. It's not the same deal.
Yeah, we understand that, and we definitely want to be open to creating more public areas around the lake for that.
There is a public area.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Charge for swimming too?
our proposal has redeveloping the beach, opening up the bathhouses, remodeling them, putting in a concession, making the beach nice, putting in new sand, putting volleyball courts in, and charging a fee to have people come and use that of $5 a person, $3 for a kid.
$5 per person, $3.
Or we were coming up with like a family pass for the year, which would be in about the $100 range is where we put in the proposal. And
Have you ever been out on a weekend? The beach is packed with people who can't afford to go to school.
Or they just come down and have a little campfire south of the boat dock itself.
Sure. Definitely are open to working out those issues and creating more usable space. You guys own 431 acres of land on that whole side of the lake that is not being used. That I think is a gem for your town to be able to, your city to be able to utilize and create public space for.
This is a core thing.
Yeah, and I would say a public space that would be open and free to use. So if the city is interested in that, we definitely can help give you plans and direction on how that can be accomplished.
For the campground, you say you're not going to increase the fees, but I wouldn't be able to afford it anymore to let my grandkids come and camp with me or my kids come for a cookout.
Yeah.
That is extra fees.
We've talked with the alderman about that, about like giving so many passes, per year and opportunities for that, for people to use and bring their guests in. And honestly, it's up to them on how the rates are set. So. No, it wouldn't be all private. It would just be the campground area. Our key is, and I know we talked about safety, is secure. So we would like that campground secure from the road in some type of gate so that kids can play and not be, have any propensity to go onto that road and have issues with traffic and children playing.
We don't have that.
Well, I've actually personally been on that road and about been run over when I was staking some things over, so I know that there's people that go fast on that road, and there is some issues there.
If they get knocked out there by tickets, they won't have it.
Yeah, sure.
You buy this property.
Hold on, sir, 1 second. I got a message that they can't hear us very well. It's being streamed, so could you repeat the questions?
Sure.
And then answer, please. Thank you.
If you buy the property and the lots are not purchased, will the public be allowed to cross those lots you own until they're purchased?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I've been approached by aldermen for that, and I have no problem until they're privately owned by someone, allowing the public to use them.
If this goes through, will there be a buffer zone between the lake and the property owner where any citizen can go out there and fish and hike and do everything?
Yeah, not on that 24 acres. There will be no buffer. Not on the 20. So the question was, will there be a buffer zone of that any of the public can use on that 24 acres? If the proposal is accepted, there will be no public access of that buffer zone. But our goal is to help create more access in other parts of the lake as a public area. So we're trying to accomplish a win-win for you, for the city, and so we're willing to try to come up with solutions that give you just as much or more than you have now.
I'm not interested in the kids. I want to know if I can walk around today.
Sure.
So that restricts me from what I've been doing for the last
Yeah.
60 years.
Amen. Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, on the camping thing, if I'm out there camping and I'm having a weenie roast and I want to invite family members and friends to join me, I think the $5 fee for them to come and join my little camp out is way out of line.
Yeah, and your aldermen are hearing you. So the question, sorry, I'm forgetting to repeat the question. The question is that, the guest fee of having someone come out for a wiener roast or something, for an evening, that having that $5 is way out of line. And reality is that that's all negotiable, and your aldermen are countering those suggestions in our proposal. The whole goal, though, is that if we're going to infuse the campground and make it nice and make it all developed and, taken care of and maintained up to code, we have to be able to recoup that money in some way. Our goal is not to make money on that campground, but is to recoup our investment. And so that's what we're working with the city and the aldermen on, is how can we negotiate that and still recoup the investment of infusing that with remodel money.
How many houses developed is your goal?
The goal is 44 lots, 44 homes. The question was how many houses develop. The goal is 44 lots and 44 homes. Yes.
I'd like to get a little clarification. In that 24 and a half, you've mentioned that there might be an area where you're going to have free access for fishing or for the public.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And if so, would that just be one area within that 24 and a half acres or more than one?
So the question is in the 24 and a half acres, is there any public area that would be proposed for that space? So some aldermen have come to us and given us that idea. We have never seen that done well in development in the lakes that we have been involved in because of the space requirement that takes and how the propensity of how close those lots are. So my counter proposal would be let's use some of the city's land and create more spaces for public use around the lake instead of trying to jam it in the 24 acres that we're talking about there.
But you have a few areas that are like wooded areas and ditches and stuff. Can you utilize those in any aspect for the public? As where you cannot put a house?
We haven't had enough chance to, the road is actually closed right now. It's reopened. So the last time I was there, it was reclosed. Those would definitely be areas we would look into, but I wouldn't, that would be something we would definitely, it's negotiable.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'm more of the developed building part. All those ravines and ditches would not be very accessible.
And like if a bridge and then a boat ramp or something,
The cost,
a possibility.
sure, it's definitely a possibility, but the cost of that type of infrastructure, when you have all the available land to make better areas, would be better suited in those spaces. So those areas won't be built on, so they'll still be natural and pristine, but it would be better if a private person owned that and maintained that than try to take care and maintain those little strips.
Okay. All right. Just to play devil's advocate on a little bit of this.
Sure.
Could you clarify a couple of things that just... I believe 44 lots is very optimistic from your guys' standpoint. Put myself as all out. 2, would you ever be open to the possibility if we did acre lots? So if you did 24 acre lots with city public access in between some of those, do you believe that's something you guys would entertain?
It would not. I would not entertain that. So the question was 24 1-acre lots with some public space in between, if we would entertain that. At that point, our cost of infrastructure to put the subdivision in, we would really not entertain that or be interested in developing that. And because the cost of that would have to be so high for the homeowners buying it, I just don't believe in this economy that those would sell. So as a developer, we would then walk away at that point.
And do you have estimates on the cost of the infrastructure?
Yeah,
and I guess to add to that, seems not all in one question. What is the possibility, or have you considered sewer rather than septic? And would you guys have any interest in doing sewer rather than septic? And and you can address the cost in the rest.
Sure. So the question is would we be interested in sewer instead of septic for these lots? Your sewer is located 4,400 feet away from Boat Dock Road, and the cost estimates that we have received has been in the area of $1.1 million to bring the sewer line in and facilitate to the lots that we would be proposing. The cost for septic systems will be around $500,000 for those lots. So it does not really make financial sense to bring the sewer line in as a developer. No developer would do that unless the city wants to assist or help us bring that sewer line in, which I don't know if is in the best interest of the city. And so with the septic systems, the 44 septic systems, we have definitely recommend and are willing to have those tested. We highly recommend that every 3 to 5 years. And we would be bringing those all up to the current codes, which have changed in 2015. And these new current codes are very stringent on the type of septic systems we can put in and how close they have to be from the lake and how they percolate into the soil.
And how long do you intend for those septic systems to last? And where do they put the new septic systems when those fail?
So the question was, how long do septic systems last and what do you do when they fail? Typical life of a septic system is 20 to 25 years, and when they are timed to be done, usually they are dug up, that system is removed, and the new system is installed inside.
It's outrageously expensive to dig up your old and put a new one in. We had to find room to put a new one.
Yeah. So on this situation, you know, our covenants would require them to dig that up and put a new one in right in the same spot, because we would not want the ecosystem impact of more trees and things being removed for them.
How many houses have you built in Canton?
So personally, myself, in the city limits of Canton,
How many houses have you built in Canton or right outside of Canton?
okay, so personally in my company, well, myself, I have probably built 4 to 5 homes in the Canton area, and when you add lodges to that, probably a total of 10.
How many have you sold?
We don't build them until they're sold, so we've sold them all. And I have personally designed and built over 300 homes in my career in the last 20 years. And sold.
And what's the average cost of those homes?
The average cost of the homes that I've designed and built in the last 20 years is probably $500,000.
What kind of square footages are you looking at for those on the lake? The large.
So the question was, what are the square footages for the lots on the houses on the lake? There is a trend nationally for lower square footage, less square footage, and more amenities. And so I think that these homes won't be as large as you saw homes built in the last 10 years. So I think that the homes that you'll see in average will be somewhere around 2,000 square feet built on the lake lots.
We had a hospital administrator here saying that we needed larger homes to attract doctors and people like that.
Yeah, so when I say the average is 2,000 feet, I think there'll be some homes that are 5,000 and 6,000 feet and some homes that are 1,000, 1,500 feet.
So will that person have to purchase 2 lots to make that happen?
Some of the lots are over, so the question was, will that person have to purchase 2 lots? That is very likely to happen. There's a lot of people that do buy 2 lots in subdivisions, but there's a lot of these lots that are 1 acre and 2 acre lots that they'll be big enough just due to the topography. So I have personally walked and measured all of these lots, so I know that all 44 lots can be built on and how they can be built on. And the topography of how the lots are set up are to use the natural ravines and such as delineation for these lots. So that's why there's some that are larger and some that are smaller.
I've got another one.
Sure.
Are you guys going to be the sole contractors, or is this going to be bid out to the community?
We have not worked that out yet, but our goal is to use local contractors in one way or the other. We do want to make this subdivision very nice and have the control of how it looks. So we'll either do that with really good covenants, or we'll do that by hiring subcontractors to come and build them for us and then controlling how those houses look.
Eric? Getting back on the public access, I think you guys have talked back there a little bit, but we don't know. But if your 44 lots get sold the way you want it, where are you guys proposing that some of these nature trails or public access will be for some people from Canton?
Sure. So again, these are just our opinions, but the question was, where would these natural or public spaces be? So basically, the city of Canton owns all the way from, where we're proposing, all the way around the lake to Youth Acres. And I think Youth Acres, of course, is on a lease, but they have all that land is undeveloped. And when I look on the map, there's 431 acres, give or take, of that land available for public use. And I think there can be amazing amenities in nature trails, and fishing areas, and using reef structures in the lake to create fishing areas for those spots for the public.
Eric, we also talked about, Nate was interested in looking at the motorcycle track and creating, you can get, a few good miles in a nature trail, you're utilizing some other property also.
Yeah, but I guess, so part two is, where are these people gonna park when they want to take their fishing pole and go down to the lake and go walk through the woods and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and that would be the proposal of having parking areas off of those streets for that access, just like they do at Wildlife Prairie Park or any other parks where you can park and walk to gain access. Okay. And if the city desires, we can also create roads to accomplish that as well.
If the funds are there.
Well, our goal is to increase the funds. So that is our goal, is to increase the funds. So the 44 lot subdivision, they will be paying $30 a month or $360 a year to also go right back into the lake and helping with vegetation and fish stocking as well. So we're trying to gain funds to be utilized at the lake.
Has Herman Brothers done any studies to see how many boats Canton Lake can hold safely?
The question is, has Herman Brothers done any studies to see how many boats Canton Lake can hold safely? And we haven't done a study on Canton Lake itself, but that's what we do. We help recreational lakes figure out how to best utilize their resource with how they use the lake. And so it's not going to be a scenario where everybody is going to be completely happy, and it's not going to be a scenario where it's us making those decisions, but we are going to have a lot of recommendations and discussions with the lake committee to figure out how we can best utilize Canton Lake safely. And we do that. Lakes all across the country hire us to do that for them.
And to kind of add to your question, two bigger lakes that are in this area are Oak Run and Lake Thunderbird. Oak Run has over, I think, 2,000 lots, and it's a 680 acre lake. And Lake Thunderbird is a 150 acre lake and has 529 lots on it. So the utilization is going to be very much less than those two lake studies there.
And we help both of those lakes with various aspects of their fishery and lake usage.
But I think with your initial proposal and your initial digging into this, you were under the assumption that the northwest side of it was all usable. So you were thinking that that was no wake zone, when in actuality it's not usable except for kayak.
To answer that question, so the question was
considering that might be okay, but that's just.
So the question is did we take into consideration the sediment issues on the north side of the lake? We actually went and did Nate went and did all the depths of the lake along the whole shoreline so that we would know how deep the lake was, and we were aware of your sediment issues on that north side. But we thought, the question was with the no wake, is there's no delineation of where the no wake was. So we assumed the no wake was all the way at the boat ramp, all the way to the dam, and then really the no wake is from the campground all the way to the dam. And that's why in our proposal, we were like, let's push the no wake closer to the campground, which it already is. We're actually, we don't know where the actual buoys are. And so, but that, to us, it's an issue that whether it's us helping the city or the city doing it on its own, they're not going to be able to please everybody with everybody's desire. It's about how can we please the most and get the best use of the whole lake for everybody. And that I'm very confident we can come up with. There's lakes that have
skiing times, no skiing times, wake times, no wake times. There's lakes that have lake, wake areas, no wake areas. You guys have addressed that a little bit, but there are ways to talk about how to best utilize the recreational opportunities at Canton Lake, and that would be one of them.
No, I think you already have like no skiing Mondays or something like that.
So what we're asking for,
Mondays, there we go.
What we're asking for is a voice with the committee to help come up with those things.
And literally, it's just a voice, so we're not making those decisions or rules.
You want, what, 24 acres of our lake?
Of the land next to the lake.
Is that what you're wanting, 24 acres? How much more do you want? You want the whole lake? You want all the land? Is that really where this is going? You want it all?
Yeah.
Is
Yes
that-
or no?
This isn't a question.
That's not the question. We're talking about 24.5, ma'am.
Right, 24 acres, but how much more do you guys want?
They haven't made a proposal for anything else but the 24.5.
Are you going to have a homeowners association?
The question was, are we going to have a homeowners association? And yes, we are going to have a homeowners association. And once the subdivision is developed, if it goes to such a degree of a percentage, then the homeowners association takes over our job of approving the homes that come in. So the people that are actually living there are approving the next homes that are being built.
And in regards of the homeowners association, we would love the opportunity to work with all of the residents on the other side of the lake by utilizing TAD and the lake committee to not alienate anybody, to let everybody have a voice and ideas and how to best preserve the lake, utilize the lake, and make it an asset.
Just my question to you. I think the old Hawaiian apology, because you told everybody to keep a civil tongue, because you got kind of hateful to her, and you just answered her.
Excuse me?
You got kind of hateful. You said
No, not at all. I'm trying to enunciate my voice, Chuck. Ma'am, if I sounded hateful, please accept my humble apology. It was not meant in that tone. Thank you.
A question up front?
Well, I mean, you heard me talk about safety and this and that, but.
Sure.
So, that north part that is 4 to 5 feet deep, do you guys have the ability to dredge that out, to deepen that, or are you planning on doing anything up there to make it more accessible, to try to get more lake use for skiers or tubers or that kind of thing?
The question was, is do we have the ability to help with the sediment in the north side of the lake? That answer is yes, we have the ability. The question is the cost. So dredging is never a cost-effective way. So the only a cost-effective way is to lower the lake and remove the sediment. But you're talking probably close to in the $1 million range or more to do that. And dredging would be 2 or 3 times that amount. So a better alternative is, that's happened, I think, in the last 70 or 80 years. So you've had actually a slow amount of sediment coming in. The best use is just making sure that that's marked and people are aware of it and using it for nature and structure and fish and just keeping boats away from those areas.
And while it's not ideal, it does create kayaking and other opportunities where you're not disturbed by other types of boats. And Lake Thunderbird just dredged several coves, and they spent upwards of $400,000 from their lake association fees to just dredge a handful of their coves.
And check, could you guys just, to piggyback off that, Eric, because I think there's been a lot of questions about the bigger estate lots and those having we talked in this one about the shallow water and those situations. Do you think that it's possible to at least, I'm just thinking if you're going to build a higher end home, your kid might want to be able to dive off the dock. And so do you think in that situation they could fix that, or is that still, you're talking a significant?
Yeah, the question is can we dredge just a certain area of the lake? And that really logistically never works with the shifting of sediment in the water. So just digging a big hole like in a section, it would literally fill up very, very rapidly. So the people that buy those lots, if this goes, they're just gonna have to know the depth of that lake. And there's lots of lakes that are only 5 foot deep.
And that's where the 32-foot dock exception would come into play, into those areas where they could reach some deeper water. And that's where we came up with that number, is when we checked the depths. That's where we felt got us out to 4 to 5 foot of water in those areas.
Yeah, and so one of my favorite lakes up in Michigan is Diamond Lake, and there's a whole, probably 500 acres of it that's only 3 or 4 feet deep that people ski in and have boat docks and such.
To get on the lake on the back, that's a new boat ramp, we call it new boat back. We gotta buy a boat permit only to get on the lake.
Correct. Same. The question is buying boat permits to use the dock. It would be your city boat sticker. That would be all you'd have to purchase.
Would you guys have the ability to deem that the lake is too busy and turn people away?
So the question is, will we have the ability to deem if the lake is too busy and turn people away? We will not. So that will be all governed by the city council and the lake committee. Our suggestion is to regulate non-resident rates higher if the lake gets too busy. So people that don't live on the lake and are not apart from the city of Canton, our suggestion would be to raise those rates for their boat sticker so there's less people that come and use it if the lake is too busy. So that would be our suggestion to the alderman.
And that's where some of the confusion came in, is the Canton resident rates would be set by the council, but we asked if for the non-residents we could use like a dynamic pricing scale where we could adjust that yearly, based on the findings and the population usage of the lake.
Well, unfortunately, that's half of the lake.
No,
The Canton resident.
well, no, the people on the lake would be considered a Canton resident in our proposal and in the alderman's proposal.
And we've talked about just
What about Boat Dock Road?
well, we've talked about the where we've talked is Canton address. That's some of the ideas we've talked about.
To answer your question, we've talked about that, and we believe that we're going to have to make up a definition for what a Canton resident is for purposes of all this.
The Canton resident is defined right now as anybody holding a city lease and/or lives within the corporate confines of the city. That's how it's defined now.
We're gonna have to guys count that.
It counts you in the in the resident sticker. So right now, if you go buy a sticker for your boat, you'd be considered a resident. You'd get the resident rate if you live on Canton Lake.
We still haven't
Other on the way out there.
That's
We're
current.
still working on that definition though.
We're still working on that.
One idea was if your address says Canton on it, that would be a definition of a resident, is one of the ideas that we've come up with.
The lake works now. I mean, the way it's set up, it works for the people. There's lots of pontoons, which is great, and all that stuff, but it works. Everybody goes out and has a good time, enjoy themselves, the pontoons go to a certain spot and stop, and, it works. It totally, there's no, you don't really have to revitalize that aspect of it because it works.
Yeah. So the question was, is it works? And there's no reason if it's working for everybody to change it. And I don't think there's any proposals to adjust that part.
No limit on horsepower. No limit on the size of boats too?
So again, the question is no limit on horsepower. So our suggestion is to just monitor the speed limit that you have now at speed limit 30, and we would recommend to not have a restriction on motors of boats. So the reason for that is because you have a lot of people that like to fish and they have bass boats, and they have 200 horsepower motors on their bass boat. So for them to switch that motor and come to your lake does not work. But if they abide by your speed limits and abide by your no wake zones, then there's really no need for the motor restriction as long as the speed limit is enforced. So that is just our suggestion to the council, that again is...
Allow 40-foot IOs out there.
Again, putting a limit on the size of boat makes sense. We have not proposed that, but if that's something that you want to propose to the aldermen, they sure can, because right now I don't think there's a limit on the boat size. So I think someone can have whatever size boat they'd like out there now, just a limit on the motor.
Okay, we're going to go ahead, wrap this up. Thank you, Chad and Nate.
Thank you, guys.
If you, for anybody that didn't ask a question or get an answer, feel free. Once again, the email's on the city website. Grab whoever your alderman is as they're walking out of here and have them give it to you. Or get hold of your alderman. Anybody that doesn't have an alderman, I'm the lake committee. Get hold of me. I know I've talked to many of you out at the lake. But any other questions or concerns, just let us know. Yeah.
I'd actually like to know who is my alderman.
Where do you live?
That's what I wondered. Okay, I live on East Berkeley.
East, how far east for?
114.
So you would be in my ward.
That's what I wanted to know.
And Craig West.
And that will conclude tonight's coverage of the Canton Lake Public Meeting. I'm Mark Bixler, News Director, and just a reminder, we can look for news coverage here on AM 1560 WBYS, and that's streamed on 93.7, as well as coverage in the Canton Daily Ledger and the Fulton Democrat. As I said, I'm Mark Bixler. Now we return to regularly scheduled programming.
Hang on.
Helping underwrite this event, Monocle's Pizza, located on North 5th Avenue in Canton. In Canton, we deliver. Quality roll-off, quality disposal, located near Farmington. By WCDD, CD Country 107.9, your home in the country. By the Bank of Farmington, located in Canton and also in Farmington. And by AC Wood Creations, located in Canton. Helping sponsor this event, Spoon River Animal Clinic, located on North Main Street in Canton. By Remax Traders Unlimited, your agent, Susie McMillan. WBYS AM 1560 and 93.7 FM, the voice of Fulton County. By Fulton County Housing Authority, Maple Manor and Longview High Rises in Canton. And by M. Bixler Video Productions. Interested in underwriting and sponsoring an event? Call us. Helping bring you this event, Sedgwick Funeral Homes, with locations in Farmington, Canton, and in Bartonville. Sustainable Building Solutions, LLC of Farmington, Chad Johnson, your owner-operator. WCDD, CD Country 107.9, your home in the country. Wesley United Methodist Church, located along Avenue A in Canton. And AC Wood Creations, located in Canton. Helping bring you this event, Spoon River Home Healthcare, bridging the gap in healthcare. Lambs of God Daycare, located on North Avenue A in Canton. By WBYS AM 1560 and 93.7 FM, the voice of Fulton County. Stereo Village, located on South Avenue A in Canton. And by M. Bixler Video Productions. Interested in a DVD of an event? Call us.